Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the International Brotherhood of Magicians official podcast. We're doing it again. I'm Jason Michaels, your host. I'm so excited that you're joining us here today. And my co hosts are with me, Ben Young, Scott Cantrell. Here's the pause.
We're great.
Okay.
How are you, Jason?
Okay. You didn't do the pause. Okay, good. I like it. I had to figure out how to negate that pause. I'm good. How are you all doing? You guys been busy? You got a lot going on? There's the pause.
Perfect.
Okay, you
Perfect.
guys
Did and I,
stink.
we were
Ah,
how to go there.
I feel like you guys, I don't know how
Mhm.
y'all did that, but like you
Oh, yeah.
didn't even text message each other. You just are
Where do
mentally
you know?
connected.
No, things are good. Been working at House of Cards and some private gigs and just keeping busy, living
Like you've
life.
really plugged in a lot here like you moved to Nashville a couple months ago, like 2 months ago or something at this
Mm.
point, and like you've really connected. You're very involved with House of Cards now. You're doing a bunch of shows there and whatnot. I know that you do the brunch show, so that's like the family show, which is cool that you can do that. But then you also do close up magic for I mean on the
For the
weeknights and
adults in the
weekend nights
evening.
for the
Yeah.
adults. Yes. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's very cool. So you're enjoying that. It's been a good experience.
I've been having a blast. It's been
Glad to hear it.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Real quickly, I know we talk about this, and I know that if you listen to the podcast very often, we discuss the different things that we're doing. But just give us the 30 to 60 second rundown. If somebody's never been to House of Cards, like now that you're there and you're showing up and doing a lot of gigs, Scott's been there since the beginning. I've been there since the beginning. What if somebody's coming to Nashville and they love magic? Why should they go to House of Cards? What's the big deal?
Am I taking this?
No, I'm sorry. That question was to you. Yes.
Okay. So what do you think, Scott? I'm just kidding.
Very funny.
Well, if
That's the
you
perfect
if you're a
thing.
fan of magic, you are going to get to see four different magicians in the same night. You'll get to see three different close-up magicians, and the the kind of rotating cast of close-up guys that we have there all have different styles and different material that they like, and so you get a lot of different flavors. And then you've got the stage show, which is usually someone from out of town that they bring in for the week. And so you see some pretty big, heavy hitters working in there as well. And so, I mean, just what an incredible experience. You get to see a lot of magic in one night and have great food and have a drink. And the ambiance in there is incredible. And
Yeah.
photos don't really, they got photos on the website and it doesn't really capture just how cool it is down there.
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed.
it's a vibe.
That's very good. Very good. And but you're having a good time. And the people, it's always interesting when magic, when the rubber hits the road, like when the theory and the ideas and the magic tricks that we do for our magician buddies actually get in front of real life audiences. And I know you've
Mhm.
been a performing magician. You've worked for real life audiences long before you ever came to Nashville. But has there been any like is are you seeing yourself learning new things from this experience? Because I know like you're there a lot now. Like you're pretty
Um,
frequently there. So what's that? Are there anything that you takeaways for you?
Oh, for sure. Uh, there's been improvements in the routines that I was doing, tweaks here and there, both from me figuring things out and the other magicians working there saying, "Hey, what if you did this instead?" And
Yeah.
implementing that and going, "Oh wow, like you were right. That's great." There's also an interesting aspect to the timing because the way that the close-up magic works there, um, you're doing these like mini shows, and figuring out the sort of the flow and the timing of that is very different than if you were doing a sit down close-up show that you were booked for, or if you're doing walk around magic, right? It's a different thing. So figuring that out has been really interesting. And so you're creating a show, but it's kind of this shorter amount of time, but you want it to have structure, you want it to have the beats. And yeah, but it's been great. It's been so much fun.
Good. That's great. Scott, what have you been up to, man? Have you been out at the old House of Cards as well?
I have been recently. Yeah, it's always fun. Otherwise, just doing private gigs and my marketing consulting day job and
Yeah.
some work for the IBM, which is exciting.
So
Got,
speaking of work for the IBM, I want to
yeah.
hear about this because you took on a pretty big project as far as the you took on a committee and you're the chair of the committee and you are in charge of publishing, which is like publishing one the publishing committee. Well, like we already published the Linking Ring. So like what does that mean? Like what to tell us about your new projects?
Yeah, so yeah, chairman of the publishing committee on the IBM. That has nothing to do directly with the linking ring or that part of the organization. We wanted to start, the organization said we want to start publishing books and publishing other kinds of content
Which is
to share.
super exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's arguably it's overdue, but everything in its time. And so the committee, I'm privileged to lead it and to chair it, but I'm really just a coordinator and organizer of the meetings. The folks who are on the committee is kind of a who's who. We have Mike Dunnigan, immediate past president of the IBM. We have Sammy Smith, who is the Linking Ring editor.
And publisher.
We have Sean Farquhar, who is a very well-known magician in our world and past
And
president of the
past
IBM
international
as
president. Yep.
well.
Yep.
And so it's a very impressive group of folks who have a lot of knowledge about the publishing world. And Mike is the one that kind of started the committee. Um, so we recently, I say recently, but it's been a while now. We started working on a book publishing project to republish Modern Magic by Professor Hoffman,
Hmm.
but not just some random copy of the book, but a truly beautiful, very nice, beautiful book um, and version of modern magic. And Sammy and Sean did some incredible work in terms of the cover, and Sammy scanning in an original version of the book and then cleaning it up, and the book came out beautifully. And so that book. If it's not currently available online as of the release of this podcast recording, it will be imminently online. So be on the lookout on social media and email for the promotion of this beautiful new IBM edition of Modern Magic. We got to see a couple of initial copies at the IBM convention in July, and they were beautiful. And then just recently, as of the recording of this, the books showed up at the office in St. Louis. So
Ooh,
we have books in hand, and life members of the
nice.
IBM are getting complimentary copies of the book. They just cover shipping, and they'll get a copy of the book for being a life member. That's courtesy of the EDF, and who is a sister organization to the IBM, but they're gifting copies of the book to all life members, which is really really cool. And
So
then
the
the
EDF
book,
is known as the Endowment and Development Fund.
yes, thank you, Endowment
Yeah.
and Development Fund. And then we'll be making copies available to obviously IBM members will get a member discount, and then people at large can also order the book for retail. So it's a beautiful book. I'm obviously a bibliophile. You can tell by the books behind me, and
Hmm.
at least a couple of those shelves, and then shelf in front of me is all magic books. So I'm super excited to get my copy and put it on the shelf. So this is the first publishing and book project of the IBM in very recent in recent history, modern history of the IBM. But it is not the last. We are already working on another project, which I won't talk about much right now, but it's exciting. And then we actually have another project in the works after that that'll be coming down the pike in the not too distant
Wow.
future. So.
I'm glad that we're out of the
Um,
Stone Age and we're in the modern
yeah,
publishing
yeah.
age. So,
It's an exciting time. So people love, magicians and collectors alike love a good, beautiful magic book, and so we thought it was an opportunity for the IBM to, live out its vision and mission
yeah,
for our
that's
community
great.
and create something worthwhile.
The book is quite elegant. It's a very, Scott has used the word beautiful several times, probably because that's like it's hard to it's almost an understated word because
Yeah.
it is really
Elegant is a
this
very good word, Jason.
this really elegant looking book with just beautiful foil. It's
Embossing.
fantastic. The folks who have a copy will treasure it. There's no
Right.
question in my mind.
Yep.
So check this out, fellas. I was recently reading The Linking Ring.
Jason was on a
August.
plane.
Jason was on an airplane the other day, August 2025. And you know how sometimes we get into all these different topics and we get into all these different subjects on the podcast. And I was reading Dale Solwick's, I hope I'm saying his name correctly. He's been around magic as far back as I can remember. He's a incredible magician, incredible manipulator, just fantastic performer. His column, A Portrait of the Professional on page 32, the article that he wrote is titled Magic and Politics. And I was like, ooh. And I was like, whoa, this, and I was like, I started reading. I was like, this sounds like one of our conversations on the podcast. Like, this sounds like exactly the type of thing that we would get into. And he talks about, like, it's a very interesting article. I urge everybody to grab your Linking Ring from August 2025 and read this article, which starts on page 32, and it's a couple of pages long, and he talks about it. So here, I'm just going to kind of, this is really interesting. So one of the things one of the main points of the article is he talks about how in 2012 he went on a 10-day performance trip to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, also known as North Korea. Okay, so he went to North Korea to do magic, and he's talking about this experience there and how the people who were hosting him, how they had these questions and they were asking questions about, why, what is it like? Why are Americans fascinated by their lives and their things like this? And so this is a really fun article. I made a couple of highlights that I thought I would point out that he discusses that I thought we could kind of chat about. So he talks a lot just about sort of being respectful, but I'll just read this. He says, "My central point is this: during international travels, most magicians rarely, if ever, talk about politics. As Marvin Roy wisely urged on all of us, politics, like religion, is a private affair, better kept separate, with some obvious exceptions from magic." And this was Marvin Roy's iron rule. Now, then he goes on and he makes a few other points. He talks about things like when you're in foreign countries and when other cultures, about being respectful in terms of the way you dress, the colors that you wear, if your clothing has any symbols on it that might be questionable or things that could be offensive. He talks about not saying anything that could embarrass or offend the people who are your hosts, which that's a pretty big deal if you stop and think about it. Because if you're going to another country and somebody's job is to host you, um, you know, they might be putting themselves out there hosting you. So to be respectful and to not represent them poorly or is kind of a big deal. But here's what I thought. This sentence stood out to me, and I'm just it's kind of a run-on sentence with a lot of commas. I'll do my best to read it. He's talking about Marvin Roy again, and so Dale says this. Marvin knew from experience what most traveling magicians soon discover. Unless the occasion warrants it, bringing a political crusade into a new relationship or performance, possibly one of the worst forms of self indulgence, risks misunderstanding and division. I thought that was very interesting. He said, bringing a political crusade into a new relationship or performance, and then it's basically in like parentheses. He says possibly one of the worst forms of self-indulgence. He's referring to bringing a political crusade up in a performance, and I thought that was so interesting because this is the type of stuff that we debate and that we talk about. What do you guys think about that? I mean, obviously Dale was in a very sensitive place where you have to be extremely careful and you want to be very respectful of what you say. But what does that bring up to you all?
Don't worry, Scott. I'll let you go first.
Oh, thanks, Ben. I am very rarely I'm not even okay. I'm very rarely an always or never guy. I can't even say I'm never or always an always or never guy. But because I always think that there's gray area and there's nuance and qualification around things. And so I think I would say the same about this. I think it depends on what your objective is, right? That's the other piece. Depends on what your objective is with your performance and who your audience is and what you're trying to achieve and what you're not trying to achieve. If the goal, which I think 99.999% of the time for magicians, if the goal is to entertain the audience and to leave them feeling, wonderment and astonishment and appreciation for the art and entertaining them, if that's the goal, and I think that most of the time it's something in that realm, then yeah, don't be political on stage. That doesn't mean you can't make a jab or a joke, but it needs to be in good taste and it needs to be thoughtful and it doesn't, need to be just off the cuff. However, that may not always be the goal. Sometimes the goal might be uh, to not necessarily to divide, to use that word from the article, but the goal of certain performances, or I'll say presentations, could be to stoke or provoke or evoke. And in those instances, then whether it's politics or religion or another topic, right? I'll just paint with a bigger, broader brush. Then normally off limit topics may be the ones that you should consider talking about depending on what your objective is. I think that's the minority, but I I have seen shows that I appreciated very much where the performer or the presenter was willing to go to a place in terms of their content or their presentation that would have otherwise in a different environment or from a different performer would have seemed not proper or faux pas or bad. And I'm sure that that performer presenter got backlash from what they said or what they did. But that was an intentional choice because they were trying to evoke not division, but they may have been trying to evoke the conversation or the debate. And I think if that's done properly, that's not inherently a bad thing. I just think that whatever you do on stage, whether it's a performance, entertainment, presentation, it needs to be done intentionally. And you do need to understand the consequences and the results of what you're saying or doing on stage and what those consequences could mean.
That's a
So
very good point.
again, I think it's you got to ask yourself, what's my intent? What's my goal? What's my objective? Um, and based on that, hopefully you make a smart, informed decision on what you want to say, what you want to perform, or what you might not want to say or not perform.
Ben.
As usual, Scott words it so much better than I ever could. I really should not let him go first. Um, I, yeah, I agree. I mean, there's the word consequences is huge, and the word context is huge.
Yeah.
Knowing what situation are you in? Are you performing at a company holiday party? Is that the time to start spewing your own, your own beliefs or your own whatever? Maybe that's not the time. If you are producing a one-man show, maybe that is the time if you have something you want to say. And we talk about Derek Delgadio a lot,
Yeah.
and he has things that he says that you may not put in if you were doing just a commercial streamline magic show for people. But there's also people like Penn and Teller that have been forever have been out there, really saying what they want to say, invoking conversation, and have been able to do that really successfully. But they also know that not everyone is going to like them. And that is something that I think we tend to circle back around is again and again, it is all about the intent and what you're going for. But if you are, for lack of a better term, if you're a run of the mill working professional or working semi-professional and you're just trying to book gigs because you want to do magic, because you like it, and you want to spread the fun to people. You want to spread the wonder, have everyone have a good experience. And that is certainly where I'm at, is I want my audiences to like me, and I don't want to divide. Then you have to keep things, you have to, yeah, hold things back.
You know,
Um,
I think the word consequence is important because I think that there are certain
yeah.
shows that are, let's say, for instance, a show off Broadway in New York City that would be well received, might not be very well received in North Korea.
Yeah, yeah, probably not.
I mean, that's what we're
Yeah.
talking about. We're talking about
Yeah,
his
exactly.
trying to be
Yeah.
respectful because
Yep.
of where he was and the culture and the people that were hosting him. So know where you are, know the time and place.
Yep.
Um, and if you just really want to get thrown in jail, feel free to do whatever you want.
Yeah, or
Because,
worse.
but I mean, you know what? It's I say that flippantly, but the simple fact of the matter is, you can do things in the United States of America you cannot do everywhere around the world. You just can't. And you need to be
Hmm.
you need to be careful about what you say, how you say. There are consequences to our actions based on cultural reasons, you know, in different countries and different places around the world. And actually, we'll get back to that in a second. Um, because there's a the main conversation that I want to we want to jump into real quick. I do want to mention something, a big project I was working on. I always ask you guys what you're up to, and then I usually am just kind of like, oh, I've been doing this, that, and the other. But I
Jason, Jason,
actually,
Jason, Jason, Jason.
what?
Speaking of, oh, did we both have bits? Are we
Yeah,
both gonna
no,
do
no,
bits?
no. I just wanted to stop Jason because Ben, you have a question you wanted to ask Jason.
That's right. That's right, Scott. We
Oh,
got
okay,
this
go
locked in.
ahead, go ahead.
Uh, Speaking of things that can have negative consequences, go ahead and tell us what you've been working on, Jason.
Uh, yes, very well said. So I worked on the so okay, so I launched, I think I briefly mentioned it in a podcast two podcasts ago. About 6 weeks ago I launched a project that I have been working on nonstop for about 2 years, but the project goes back about 4 years ago. And the project is called Magician in the Kitchen. And the whole idea behind this show, I had this idea. My dad. I love to cook. I love to get in the kitchen and just kind of like fiddle around and just try to, you know, follow recipes and make stuff up and whatnot. I've always enjoyed that. One day, my dad said to me, I was cooking for the family, and he said, "Man, you're a magician in the kitchen," and that phrase stuck in my head, and I said, "Oh, that's an interesting idea." And so I just filed it away. And one day I was thinking about it, and I thought to myself, that would be an interesting show. But then I saw it, I don't really know what that show would look like. And my dad has constantly said to me, "You're the magic chef. You're the magic chef. You're the magic chef." And I was like, "But I'm not a chef. I like to cook. I have no formal training." But that phrase "magician in the kitchen" just kind of stuck in my head until one day I did a brainstorming session on it, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I know what this could be. This could be a show, whether it's a TV show or a show on YouTube or whatever, but this could be a show that is about this magician, me, who doesn't know any formal cooking techniques, and we bring in a chef every episode, and the chef teaches me one of their favorite dishes, and then teaches me like the proper way to do it. So like if I don't have the proper knife skills, the chef teaches me how to use the knife and how to prepare the whole thing. And while doing so, while preparing this dish, I do magic with objects around the kitchen. So, you know, maybe I do something with a blender, or I do something with, you know, the magic wand is like a stir stick, you know, something like, you know, a spatula or something like that. But so that idea was born, and I took it to my buddy Bob Jaffe, who was one of the producers of World's Greatest Magic back in the day. I've gotten to know Bob. He lives here in Nashville, and we collaborated on it, and we shot it. And I just launched it. I launched it on YouTube about 6 weeks ago. The show is titled Magician in the Kitchen. Right now, it's just one show. We shot it as a pilot because we wanted to shop it around, and we did. We shopped it around, and we got a lot of interest, but we didn't have anybody who was ready to pull the trigger. So I just decided that it was time. It was time to get this out into the world. So if this sounds fun to you, Magician in the Kitchen, I'm going to include the link to the video that you can watch on YouTube. I'll include it in the show notes. And I'll also include the webpage where it is in case you want to learn more about it. But go check that out because it's super fun. Ben helped brainstorm some of the ideas as far as the magic goes. So did Scott. Scott was actually there helping during the shoot. So it was super fun. And because you guys were both involved in it, and feel free to share any thoughts on it.
I mean, I think that this is the worst place in the episode that you could have brought this up.
Okay.
We
Thanks.
talking about you know doing things where you have like a point of view and it may be divisive, and you're like, oh yeah, by the way, here's this artistic project going on.
Yeah,
That being
I should
said,
have brought this up earlier for sure.
or
Food brings
later.
us food brings us together, Ben. Magic and food
Oh,
bring us
that's
together.
right. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's kind of like magic and it's kind of like dinner and a show.
Yeah, there you go.
That being said, I have watched it and it's great. It's a ton of fun. It's super lighthearted. Anyone out there who likes to watch cooking shows knows just how like relaxing and fun that is. And so you get all the fun of that, plus you get some magic in there too. And it's just a fun concept. So I'm excited to see if anything else comes of it.
Yeah,
Future episodes.
I'm hoping that we can either find a sponsor or get somebody behind it, and so that we could get some funding to make an entire season of it because it was super fun to do, and I would love to do an entire season. Scott, you
It's
were
a
there.
fantastic show. You guys did a great job producing it. Content's great, and I mean, I'm not much of a chef, but I appreciate what I saw, and the magic was solid, and it was fun. The final product looks great. Having Bob there in a producer role was brilliant, and the fact that he was able to be there was really cool because world's greatest magic was like
I
my whole
know,
childhood.
I
So
know, it's so cool.
that was very, very kind of surreal and fun. So yeah, this has legs. And I would just encourage everybody to go check it out. You said it premiered on YouTube, right?
Yeah, we launched it. We put it out into the world, so it's out there, and I will include a link to it in the description of the show, so that if you want to go check it out, you can. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun. The show ended up being just a little under 40 minutes, so it's like 38 minutes. So, if you and the other cool thing about it is family friendly. It's something that you can watch with your kids. The thing about food is that we said it kind of flippantly, but you're honestly right. This is one of the things that Bob and I talked about. Food does bring us together. Food brings us together in community. Food brings us together in families. And so for those people who love the art of magic and love the idea of even learning a trick, because we do a teach a trick in there with an item that you would find around the kitchen. So if you want to be able to if you want to just watch a fun show and learn some things about what it's like to, learn some actual real cooking techniques as of what chefs can teach you in the kitchen, and you want to watch some fun magic and you want to share it with your kids or your grandkids or something like that, it's a fun 40 minutes and it's worth your time. I think you'll very much enjoy it.
And for the record, this was not like filmed on an iPhone. You're not throwing around the word producer just to make yourself sound good. This was
No.
in an actual like studio kitchen with actual cameras and like a studio audience. Like it was like a real thing.
No, we shot it to we literally shopped this to
It's
major
ready for
like
TV.
networks and to major production companies because the goal really was to get this made. We wanted this to end up on the Food Network. We wanted it to end up on, you know, one of the, Bravo, something like that, where they would want sort of a lighthearted, fun show that incorporates magic and that, certainly incorporates the whole culture, the entire community around food. So no, I spent a lot of money on it, and I brought in an excellent group of people with the best technology to create something really strong. And so it really is super fun. So yeah, thank you for indulging me in that, and I hope you'll check it out.
And having produced that content will probably not put you in jail
Yes, it
because
probably yes.
it's respectful.
Probably.
The context is right.
Okay, there we go. Good callback.
See,
Good callback.
see,
Nice,
there you go.
nice.
I'm here, man.
And you're rocking it. All right, let's get into the main discussion. So Ben and I stumbled on this discussion about a
Oh,
week ago.
oh
And
no.
we started into this discussion, and I was like, "Oh, we're going to talk about this on the podcast." So stop talking. Well, I'll
Oh
just start
no.
making some notes.
Before we get into it, let it be known I love all you magicians out there. Everyone out there that's doing their thing, working hard, doing the best they can. All right, Jason. Oh, bad timing. All right.
So
All right, Jason.
is the presupposition there that I don't love all magicians? Is that what I'm hearing? Is
Dude,
that
you speak for yourself. I just wanted to get it out there so that everyone knows I am a team player and
all right? So I did a speaking engagement about 6 weeks, maybe 2 months ago in Colorado, and I was attending the reception after at the end of the day after I had spoken, and I was chatting with this one guy who was very nice. He was very complimentary, and it was all wonderful. And he said, he said something along the lines of, this is what I liked about what you did, and he named a few things. And he said, we had a guy. He said, I guess you would call him, yeah, I guess you'd call him a mentalist. We had a mentalist come and speak to us last year, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. This company has a pattern of hiring people who in this sort of magic world. But he said, and he was good, but honestly, I felt like he kind of missed the mark because like he was talking to us about how he was doing this stuff and he was sharing, like how he was reading body language and, he was doing all this stuff, but he really didn't get into the details. And I feel like if he had like actually taught us how to do it, like our salespeople could have like used that knowledge to like be better salespeople, at which point I had to bite my tongue and just be
Yeah.
like smile and be like, oh well, it's that sounds like that would have been great, but thank you very much for your kind words. I had to basically, just kind of finish out the conversation, but it left an indelible mark in my brain that I was like, okay, I want to talk about this at some point because I think this is an important discussion. So the first thing I want to say is if you are an entertainer and you are doing entertainment and your job, like you're a mentalist and you're claiming that you're doing these incredible things, it doesn't bother me as much as, but if you are a speaker, a keynote speaker, and let me delineate what that means. If you speak to groups and when the goal as a speaker is to educate people, you want to be as engaging and as entertaining and as fun and as interesting as you can be. But the goal of a speech is not to do a show. The goal of a speech is to educate people on things that they can learn and that they can take away from a speech. If you are a speaker and you are telling people that you're doing things that you're obviously not doing, you're a damn liar. And you're probably a scumbag as well. Okay, so
So
let's just
Jason,
call it what
who
let's just call it what it is. So here's my go ahead, Scott. I'll get crazy in a second, but go ahead.
no, I just who was it who was the performer in Colorado?
Here's the thing. I am a huge fan of mentalism. And I don't really have a problem with somebody saying that, I use the five, what do they say? I use the five
the
senses
five
in
senses.
order to
Yeah.
create the appearance of a sixth sense. I don't like that. Doesn't really bother me all that much. But when people start telling and selling themselves to groups to come in and be a keynote speaker or be a trainer or to do this educational workshop. And they come in and they say, oh, I'm reading body language and eye accessing cues and I'm looking at micro expressions. And this is how I'm able to tell you what your PIN number is on your phone. You're not. You're not doing that. Okay. You're a liar. You're a scumbag and you should stop. Okay, it's just as simple as that. Now, I'm not saying that you're not reading body language I mean, because if somebody leans back and crosses their arm, you can probably tell they're not a good person to be involved in your act. I'm not saying you're not reading body language like that. I'm not saying you're not looking at micro expressions as far as somebody that might have a slight downturn in their, in their gaze, and so they don't look like the right people. But when you're selling what you're doing based on a legitimate magic trick, maybe it's an app, maybe it's some sort of a technique you learned as a magician. Thank you, mentalist. You're actually a magician who's actually doing mental tricks. So, but when you're literally selling that you're
This is
doing
going to be
something that
our most listened to episode ever.
when you're selling something that you're not doing, but you're actually telling them that you're doing, you need to stop doing that. And I'm dead serious, because you're actually hurting people. You are hurting people and you're lying. And it just pisses me off. Feel free to extrapolate on that point.
Jason, how do you feel about it? I'm sorry.
Now what
Well,
go ahead, Thomas.
if you're a speaker and you're supposed to be delivering actual content, and and like you said, you're supposed to be educating, you're supposed to be leaving something with, or leaving people with something that they can take away. And maybe an easy way to look at it is, as a magician, you wouldn't go on stage as a speaker and tell them, well, yeah, so I'm casting this spell, and that spell allows me to find your card. It's the same kind of thing, right? You're giving a false explanation for what you're doing, and it doesn't actually do anything for people. It is just a show. Now, if you're doing a show, I do think it's okay. I mean, it's a play, right? And you're trying to make it entertaining, and you're trying to make these things plausible. It is kind of a weird slippery slope that would take a long time to kind of get into the nuance of. But to some extent, you kind of have to do what you have to do, or else it seems, we get into the too perfect theory. It seems too impossible, or whatnot. And you give something to latch onto. But yeah, if you're supposed to be delivering content that's helping people, you can't give them BS. You have to give them actual takeaways.
I mean, just for the record, the one thing that when I started speaking, I was I was doing a combination of a show and a speech. And the more I spoke, the less the less I wanted to be doing a show, because I could get the vibe of the audience. I could read what people were really responding to. Now, sometimes the goal was to be fun and enjoyable, and to do something that's entertaining. But very quickly, I learned that the function of speaking is not to do a show.
Yeah. Yeah. I think entertainment and education can absolutely be shuffled together, right? They can absolutely support one another. Um, we know that. My favorite teachers in school were those, they didn't all do a couple of them actually did some magic, but it wasn't about the magic. It was about how they presented the content, to Ben's point, right? And if you present it in an entertaining way, then it's easier, more fun to watch. I'm more likely to retain it. So there absolutely is a place for a keynote or a speech or a presentation to be entertaining. In fact, arguably, define entertaining however you want, but arguably it needs to be entertaining if you want it to be as effective as it can be, right? And entertaining could be funny, entertaining could be magical, entertaining could also be emotional and dramatic, right? It doesn't, a good story is entertaining. And that story is not always funny, it's not always tragic, it's not, but it's something, right? It's one of those things. So, um, I mean, I like everything that you all said. I I let you know, I like what you said, Ben. You got to go first this time, so I don't think I could said it better. Um, the note that I will have just in terms of Jason's, you know, ardent belief that that what happened is not the right thing to happen, I do actually completely agree with. It is it's what Ben, you use the absurd example, but you're meeting absurdity with absurdity, right? The absurd example of a magician being on stage and a card is selected, and now I'll cast a spell that will help me find your card. No one's going to believe that. That you say that out loud, and people will laugh because they know it's a joke or they expect it's a joke, right? We're on the cusp with mentalism and body cue, body language, and all those things, where you can get away with that explanation, because people it's not in then mediumship is still today, and in particular was in the late 1800s and early 1900s, that Houdini was dead set against and always about exposing. It's the same thing. What Jason's talking about is the same thing, just presented in a different way, in a slightly different scale, right? But the potential harm that could be done is still there. And that's not cool. It's not cool for anybody. Now there is, I mean, just to use that specific example, Jason, and I know you're using that as an example for a broader conversation. There are people, right, who can, who body language experts, right? But to Jason's point, they're not going to be able to tell you your PIN code or the name of your dog from when you were a kid, right? We at some point we have to get into the realm of practicality, and be a little bit more objective about it. So if you're a magical entertainer, if you're a mentalist, if you're someone in that world, and you're acting as if you have these powers, and it's not clear that your intent is to deceive people into believing that you legitimately have these powers. It's not part of a shtick or part of a character or part of a play or part of a joke, but your intent is actually to convince people that you can talk to people beyond the realm or whatever it may be. Yeah, that's problematic and that's not cool. And it only hurts everybody. It hurts the client, it hurts the art, um, and ultimately it will hurt. My belief is ultimately will hurt the person who is deceiving
I'm
in
reminded of
in an
Penn and Teller.
inauthentic way. Yeah,
I'm just no, dude. I'm reminded of Penn and Teller, who have always
yeah,
said we're just a couple of dudes who know some cool tricks. Or I
yeah.
mean, paraphrasing what they said, but that's basically what they said. We're just a couple of regular guys who know some cool tricks. And I always thought that was cool, but the older I get and the more that I see, I appreciate that even more now, because I don't want to I don't want to be critical of people who are doing entertainment and are,
Right.
but there is a little side of me that still has a little bit of an issue with it. So all right, let's separate this. So I was speaking about people who were supposed to be giving educational content that were
This is a really
that were
important,
telling a lie.
and this is a really important distinction, what you're about to say. So I'm completely on track with you. Go ahead.
Now, if we're talking about entertainers
Yeah.
whose job is to go out and create this magical experience, and they're doing it by calling themselves mentalist and
Yeah.
saying that they can do these things, I don't have as much a problem about it, but I do still have a little bit of a problem with it. And I guess it's just, I don't know if it's just me getting older or maybe it's a sign of the times things are changing.
You have CRMS, Jason. COMS,
COMS.
cranky old man syndrome.
Cranky old man.
He's got
Well,
it bad. He's got early onset.
cranky. Maybe so. No, I just think about it in the sense that, in today's world, I think everybody's pretty savvy and like they understand that if I'm doing, a set of magic at House of Cards, that I'm just a guy who has learned some interesting skills and I can do that. Okay, so I just said that. Now I'm going to tell you a story about a wild sort of situation. And this happened when I was on tour. I think Ben was there. We were in a Middle Eastern country and we were on a military base. And we walked into the MWR tent, which is where we were going to do our show. Now, for those of you who don't know a lot about what happens on military bases, a lot of times, the majority of times, when the United States of America has a military presence in another country, they hire local citizens to come on that base and to do certain jobs. So when we got there, we were getting set up, and I went to the front desk, and I was talking to somebody about something, and there was somebody there that was an American, and then there were several people there that were nationals of the country where we were in. And they said, "Oh, you're the magician. Will you do a trick for us?" And they were very excited about it. And so I did. And I did a card trick. I did a very straightforward card trick. They selected a card, some stuff happened to it, I found it, no big deal. They responded very well to it. They loved it. They're like, "Oh, that was amazing. You're so amazing." I was talking to somebody, and one of the guys, I was still, so a minute later, I'm still sitting there, I'm talking to whoever I'm talking to, and one of the guys walks back up and he goes, "Excuse me, I just have to ask you this one question." And he was very sincere. And he said, "What you did, was that real magic, or was that a trick?" Okay, so let me be very freaking clear. We don't think that people actually believe that what we're doing is magic. But in certain parts of the world, they 100% think that we're doing sorcery, witchcraft, or something nefarious. And and those cultures do not like it. And if you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, well, not me. That's what I would have thought 20 years ago either," until I started traveling overseas, and all of a sudden my magic started hitting and people started saying things like that. And I said to myself, "Hey, dude, be very clear about what your intent here is, because you could do something that could be very bad. You could tell somebody, 'Yes, I'm doing real magic. Yes, I'm a real mentalist. Yes, I'm really reading body cues. Yes, I'm really doing this.' And they might just believe you, and they might take that back to their family. They may take that personally. They may take that back to some sort of a religion that they're a member of. That might not go well, is my point.
Yep.
Yeah. So I do have a couple things.
Oh,
One, and this is in regards to if you find yourself in a position where you're speaking or you're training, you're an expert of some kind and you're supposed to be giving content. There are other things that magicians and mentalists are experts in that you could talk about.
Absolutely.
I mean, Jason, you had an example of body language. You talked about being able to tell if someone's going to be a good audience member or not. That's legitimate. That's something that you can talk about. You can talk about misdirection. You can talk about that honestly. You can talk about the creative process. You can talk about communication. You can talk about these kinds of things and be sincere. So that's number one. And that I don't really expect that to spur more conversation. But something that is interesting is mentalism is different than magic, because magic is impossible, right? The card was in the deck and now it's on the top. That is impossible. Mentalism, it's highly improbable
Yeah.
that you would know my PIN code, but technically possible. And that's where we get into that messy situation of having disclaimers and all of these sorts of things. And you have to have a little bit of misdirection to make it seem like you didn't just look at what they wrote down or
Yeah.
whatever the method may be. Okay. Right. I'm okay. But I just think it's interesting that with mentalism, we have the disclaimer thing. You have to say, "No, I don't have actual powers. I can't read minds. I'm not talking to the dead." But then also, you have to be careful with how many false explanations you are giving. You can only use the body language example so much, or whatever other things you want to use that people say. So it's kind of a in between a rock and a hard place. I mean, and this could be a whole episode on its own. We should probably
sure.
bring a guest on to talk about it,
Yeah,
We'll
honestly.
get Darren Brown. Let's get Darren Brown.
He's on the short list, I think. But yeah, I mean, what if you're a mentalist, and again, now we're talking about as entertainment. We're not talking about if you're training or speaking and presenting actual content. But if you're just doing a show, what is the right play for a mentalist that makes it plausible enough that people really react well because they don't think you're doing, straight magic, but isn't as deceptive, in the bad way, bad deceptive.
I It is a whole nother conversation. And obviously I do mentalism, but I'm not like only a mentalist, right? I have friends who are, and there's different schools of thought on, do you do the disclaimer? To what extent? What are you representing to the audience in terms of your skill or abilities or not? And those are, I think, those things are good conversations that are important to have, right? For exactly the same thing we're talking about here. In my opinion, and both of you have hit on this, I think a key line in the sand or delineation, it's not the only thing, right? Because what I'm going to say isn't a magic pill to this, no pun intended. But I think it is a clear delineation, and that is, what is your purpose at the event?
Thank you.
And
Mm-hmm.
Jason alluded to this. If your purpose is entertainment and you happen to be a mentalist, false explanations are going to be part of the gig. It's going to be what you do, right? Because that's part of the art. It's part of the deception. It's part of the misdirection. Um, so yeah, you're there for entertainment. You're going to present one thing. Now, to Jason's point, if you have somebody that comes up to you afterwards and they say, "How long have you had this gift?" Then maybe that's an opportunity to, you know, break it down for them a little bit. You don't have to show them how everything works, but oh no, I'm just using psychology and tricks to deceive and make it look like But anyway, on the flip side, so if you're an entertainer, false explanation, da 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 da, fine. If you're there, to your point, Ben, if you're there to deliver content and to be educational to a group, and you're giving false explanation and trying to teach false explanation as real content and education, that's fraud. That's illegal,
Fair.
technically. Um, that is fraud. So
Yeah,
now,
you're right.
on a legal level, is it fraud? I'm not an attorney. A legal disclaimer goes here. But the point is, that's fraudulent. Whether it's technically legally fraud, I don't know. Probably is. But whether it technically is or not, it's deceptive, but in a negative way. All the things that Jason was talking about earlier, that ain't cool. That's hurting everyone. So, um, why are you there? What is the client expecting? And how are you presenting what you're presenting? Are you presenting it as legitimate and now you're trying to teach someone, educate them on this fake stuff that you're supposedly doing that you're not really doing? Not cool. If you're there in an entertainment capacity, hey, your eyes went up and to the left. That means you're trying to remember something. Your eyes went up and to the right. You're trying to create a false memory. So you're lying to me if your eyes go up and to the right. And I've got all this body language stuff, which is accurate or not accurate, but it's there for entertainment purposes only. And I think it's important to make that distinction. And maybe it's on us as entertainers or presenters not maybe, it is on us as performers and presenters to make sure we understand what the expectation is of the client who's giving us money, but also what is the expectation of the audience that's sitting in those chairs. It's probably the same as the client, but it's probably not a bad idea to just confirm.
My last note that I had here is basically exactly what you both said it. Scott, you just said it
Said it
very,
better.
very, very clearly. But my final note it simply says this: what is your motivation for doing magic? Now, you said that, but you were also talking about what was, why were you hired to be there?
Yeah,
Here's what I will say. How important is it for you to appear to be the smartest person in the room?
right.
How important is that to you? Is that, I mean, is that like your motivation? Because if that's your motivation, then I don't know, keep doing what you're doing. But if your motivation is to, share this experience of wonder or create connection or whatever, then maybe there are better ways to do that. All right, fun discussion, fellows. It is always a pleasure to see you.
And on that
Uh,
light note,
on that light note, yeah, exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
here, I do have a tip.
Give it to
People
us.
can do what I do. I have a mentalism bit in my show, but I attribute it to my Rocky Raccoon, and nobody thinks that that's the truth.
They don't think your puppet is psychic.
No, despite me calling him one and him connecting with the audience by looking into their eyes. Yeah. So
Good to
there you
know.
go.
Good to
Little
know.
helpful tip for the people.
For all you future mentalists out there, you want to keep it light? Get a puppet.
Buy Rocky. Get a Rocky raccoon.
Tannins is making, they're remaking the original ones now, high quality. Go buy that. Throw that into your body language seminar and
funny.
There is something there. There is something there. Yeah.
There is something there.
There's an opportunity there. Feel free. Somebody take that and run with it. Scott, where can people see you next? It's middle of November. Where can they see you?
Probably on our next podcast.
Okay.
He just resurfaces for the pod and
come
goes
up with a
back
podcast. Here, there, and yon. I'm part of a show here in Nashville, at a cool place at the Passage Kava Lounge once a month, which is fun. At House of Cards, on the podcast, at magic conventions throughout the country during the year. So don't be a stranger.
And they can reach you. We'll have your information in the show notes. They can always reach out to you if they want to know what that next publication is that the IBM is going to be putting out. Ben, what about you, man?
Come see me at House of Cards sometime if you want to see the mind reading raccoon in action, in all of its fraudulent ways.
And that's not a nickname for you. We don't call you the mind reading raccoon. We're talking about a bitch.
No, we're talking about Rocky. Yeah. But I'm also doing close up in the evenings. So yeah, come to House of Cards, see me there. Follow me on Instagram at Ben Young Live. Say hello.
Do it, folks. Do it. Hey, folks, if you want to learn more about the International Brotherhood of Magicians, you can find all the information out at magician.org. We have a big convention coming up in July. All of that information is at IBMconvention.com, where you can learn. The talent has been released. Oh, we should have talked about this. We should have been talking about some of the talent. Just so you know. Ooh, this is the little bonus. We'll give you the last 90 seconds. Aaron Fisher's going to be at the IBM convention. Andrew Goldenhirsch is going to be at the IBM convention. That is huge. I've always wanted to see Andrew Goldenhirsch perform, and I never have. Let's see here. Who else? Other names. Paige Thompson is going to be there. There's two others that Skylar Jade is going to be there, and now I can't not get the last one. Oh gosh, this is terrible. Hold on, I'm looking. Oh, of course, John Armstrong. John Armstrong, the tiny plunger, will show up with John Armstrong, and you will have a blast. So, hey, more talent is always being released. If you want to go to the IBM convention, it would be an outstanding gift for your Christmas or your Hanukkah or whatever you happen to celebrate. A registration to the IBM convention would be amazing. It's being held in St. Louis in July of 2026. One more time, you can learn more about that at IBMconvention.com or magician.org. If you want to connect with me and yell at me for some reason, maybe I've said something that annoyed you today, you can connect with me. My information will be on the show notes as well. It's always a pleasure to get to spend some time with you folks. Good to see you, Ben. Good to see you, Scott. We will see all of you again very soon. Take care, y'all. Good job, boys.
Are you a mentalist who recently performed in Colorado? Do you want Jason Michael's personal cell phone number?
You might be entitled to a settlement.
Okay.